Admiral Zektar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the stars through the massive viewing window. His 12 warships moved through space in perfect formation. The Valerian Galactic Empire had ruled this part of the galaxy for over 300 years. Every species knew their place under Imperial rule. The patrol was routine. They were checking the outer rim territories, making sure no pirates or rebels were hiding in the empty systems. Zektar had done this mission hundreds of times before. It was boring work, but necessary to keep the Empire's borders safe. "Admiral," called Lieutenant Vex from his station. "We have something on sensors." Zektar walked over to the sensor display. A single ship appeared on the screen, moving slowly through space near a dead planet. The ship looked strange. It was not sleek like Imperial vessels or even like the crude ships used by most other species. "What is that thing?" Zektar asked, studying the readings. "Unknown, sir," Vex replied. "The computer cannot match it to any ship in our database. The design looks unusual." The ship on the screen was a mess of different parts. It looked like someone had taken pieces from dozens of different vessels and welded them together. Parts of the hull were clearly from different sources. Some sections were smooth metal, others looked rough and patched. Strange towers and arrays stuck out at odd angles. "It looks like junk," said Commander Thale, Zektar's second-in-command. "Some scavenger probably built it from wreckage." Zektar nodded. The ship did look like something a desperate scavenger might put together, but something about it bothered him. The vessel was large, much bigger than a simple scavenger ship should be. "Any response to our presence?" he asked. "No, sir," Vex reported. "They seem to be ignoring us completely. This was unusual. Most ships would at least acknowledge an Imperial patrol. Fear, respect, or simple courtesy demanded some kind of response. But this vessel continued on its path as if the Imperial fleet did not exist. "Send the standard hail," Zektar ordered. The communications officer activated the transmitter. "Unknown vessel, this is Admiral Zektar of the Valerian Imperial Fleet. Identify yourself and state your business in this system." They waited. No response came back except static. "Try again," Zektar said. The officer repeated the message, this time in 3 different galactic languages. Still nothing but static. "Maybe their communication systems are broken," suggested Thal. Zektar studied the ship more carefully. Despite its rough appearance, the vessel was moving with purpose. Its course was direct and steady. "This was not a derelict drifting in space. What are those energy readings?" he asked, pointing to some unusual numbers on the display. Vex checked his instruments twice. "Unknown, sir. The energy patterns are unlike anything in our databases. Very strange signatures coming from multiple points on their hull. Could be leaking reactor cores," Thale said. "That ship looks unsafe," but Zektar was not convinced. Something felt wrong about this situation. The ship was too organized in its movement, too purposeful, and those energy readings were too stable to be leaking reactors. "Sir, the vessel is changing course," Vex announced. On the screen, the unknown ship was slowly turning. It was moving away from the Imperial fleet, heading deeper into the empty system. "Are they running?" Thale asked. "At that speed?" Zektar shook his head. The ship was not accelerating to escape velocity. It was just moving away like it wanted to avoid contact. "Maybe they are afraid," Thale suggested. 12 Imperial warships would frighten any smuggler or pirate. Zektar made his decision. "Launch a boarding shuttle. If they will not talk, we will board them and find out what they are hiding." "Sir," the shuttle bay commander reported over the comm. "Boarding team is ready." "Send them over. Full scan of the vessel. I want to know what that ship is and where it came from." 2 Imperial shuttles launched from the flagship. They were fast armed vessels designed for exactly this kind of operation. The shuttles moved toward the unknown ship in a standard boarding approach. "The target is not responding to our shuttles," reported the shuttle commander. "No defensive actions, no evasive maneuvers. They are just sitting there." This was getting stranger. Most ships would try to run when faced with Imperial boarding teams. Even innocent traders would at least try to negotiate. "Continue the approach," Zektar ordered. The shuttles were now very close to the unknown vessel. The boarding teams could see the ship's hull clearly on their cameras. The patchwork construction looked even stranger up close. It was like looking at a puzzle made from pieces of different pictures. "Admiral?" The shuttle commander's voice came over the comm, but he sounded confused. "Sir, I am seeing weapon systems activating on the target." Zektar looked at his sensors. "I do not see any weapons on that ship." They are not showing on our sensors, but I can see them with my own eyes. Gun ports are opening. Answer. These weapons look nothing like anything I have ever seen. Before Zektar could respond, the unknown ship fired. The weapons that emerged were impossible. They did not look like plasma cannons or missile launchers or any other weapon the Empire used. They were strange, twisted things that seemed to bend space around them as they charged. The first shot hit the shuttle carrying the boarding team. The small craft simply vanished. Not destroyed, not blown apart, it just disappeared as if it had never existed. What happened to Shuttle 2? Zektar demanded. Gone, sir, Vex said, staring at his instruments. No debris, no energy signature. It is just gone. The second shuttle tried to retreat, but the unknown ship fired again. This time the weapon looked completely different from the first one. It created a beam of something that was not light, not plasma, not anything in Imperial science books. The second shuttle froze in space, its systems dead. All ships, battle stations, Zektar shouted. But the unknown vessel was not finished. More weapon ports opened along its hull. Each one looked different, as if the ship carried dozens of completely different types of weapons. The first salvo hit 2 Imperial cruisers. The weapons struck with impossible force. One cruiser's shields collapsed instantly, something that should have taken sustained fire from an entire fleet. The other cruiser's hull began to dissolve, its atoms somehow being taken apart. Return fire, Zektar ordered. His fleet opened up with everything they had. Plasma cannons, missile batteries, and energy beams all struck the unknown ship. The weapons hit their target, but nothing happened. The ship's hull absorbed the Imperial weapons like they were nothing more than flashlights. Shields holding at 100%. Vex reported in shock. Our weapons are having no effect at all. The unknown ship fired again. This time it targeted the flagship itself. The weapon that struck them was different from all the others. It seemed to reach through their shields as if they were not there and grabbed hold of their main reactor. Alarms began screaming throughout the ship. Reactor containment failure, someone shouted. But then as suddenly as it had started, the attack stopped. The unknown ship powered down its weapons and resumed its original course, moving away from the Imperial fleet as if nothing had happened. Zektar stared at the screen, watching the impossible vessel disappear into the darkness of space. 2 of his cruisers were crippled, 1 shuttle was gone, and another was dead in space. His own ship had barely avoided a reactor explosion, and he had no idea what had just attacked them. Get me a communication link to Imperial Command, he said quietly. Priority Alpha. We need to report this immediately. The unknown ship was gone, leaving only questions and the smell of fear on the bridge of the Imperial flagship. Fleet Admiral Korvash received the emergency transmission in his private office on the Imperial homeworld. The message from Admiral Zektar was marked with the highest priority codes. Such codes were rarely used and never for routine patrol reports. Korvash read the report 3 times before calling for his senior staff. The story seemed impossible. A single unknown vessel had disabled 2 Imperial cruisers and destroyed a boarding shuttle without taking any damage itself. According to Zektar, their weapons had been completely useless against the strange ship. Get me the intelligence division immediately, Korvash ordered his aide. Within an hour, his office was filled with the Empire's best minds. Admiral Nex from Fleet Intelligence, Dr. Varen from Advanced Weapons Research, and Captain Gresh from Alien Technology Analysis all studied the sensor recordings from Zektar's encounter. The energy signatures make no sense, Dr. Varen said, shaking her head at the data. These readings violate several fundamental laws of physics. No known technology should be able to generate these patterns. Captain Gresh was examining the images of the unknown ship. The construction is unlike anything we have encountered. It appears to be built from components of many different technological bases, but somehow they work together. Admiral Nex was more concerned with tactical implications. If one ship can disable 2 of our cruisers, we need to know how many more ships like this exist, and we need to know who built them. Korvash nodded. What do we know about the origin of this vessel? Dr. Varen pulled up more data on her screen. We managed to analyze some of the energy emissions. There are traces of materials and isotopes that are not commonly found in this sector. The composition suggests the ship came from the outer spiral arm, possibly from beyond our current territory. Any communication intercepts? Korvash asked. That is the strange part, Admiral Nex replied. We detected no standard communication protocols. But our deep listening stations picked up some very brief transmissions on frequencies we do not normally monitor. The signals were heavily encrypted and very short. Captain Gresh activated a holographic display. We ran the ship's design through every database we have. No matches with any known species, but there were some interesting findings in the historical archives. The hologram showed an old report, its edges faded with age. This is from a survey mission about 60 years ago. A scout ship reported contact with a primitive species on a small world near the galactic rim. The species called themselves humans. Dr. Varen looked interested. What did the survey team report? Very basic technology, Gresh read from the old files. Simple chemical rockets, primitive electronics. The species had barely achieved crude spaceflight. The survey team classified them as non-threatening and recommended no contact. You think this unknown ship belongs to these humans? Korvash asked. It is possible, Gresh said. But if so, they have advanced remarkably quickly. The technological gap between that old survey report and this encounter is enormous. Admiral Nex pulled up star charts on his display. I ordered deep scans of the sectors where these humans were supposedly located. Our long-range sensors are showing some unusual activities in those areas. The star chart highlighted several systems near the galactic edge. Small energy signatures appeared throughout the region, too faint and distant for detailed analysis. Could be mining operations or colony ships, Nex continued, but the energy patterns are similar to what Zektar encountered. Dr. Varen was studying the weapon effects data. Admiral, I need to express my concerns about these weapons. According to this data, they are not just advanced. They appear to be based on completely different scientific principles. She brought up detailed analysis charts. Look at this energy discharge pattern. It suggests manipulation of fundamental forces we do not fully understand. And here, she pointed to another section, this weapon appears to have affected matter at the atomic level. Meaning what exactly? Korvash asked. Meaning if these humans have developed such technology, they represent a threat beyond anything we have encountered before. Our current military doctrine assumes certain limitations on weapons technology. These readings suggest those limitations do not apply. Captain Gresh was examining more historical data. Admiral, I found something else interesting. There are other old reports mentioning humans, but they were all filed under dismissed contacts or false alarms. He displayed several more ancient reports. Survey teams reported strange encounters with unidentified vessels in outer systems, ships that appeared primitive but displayed unusual capabilities. All reports were dismissed because they did not match any known technology. How many reports? Admiral Nex asked. Over 40 spanning the last 50 years, Gresh replied. All from different sectors, all describing similar encounters with vessels that did not behave according to known physics. The room fell silent as the implications became clear. The humans had not suddenly developed advanced technology. They had been active in space for decades, and the Empire had been ignoring the evidence. Admiral Korvash stood up and walked to the large window overlooking the Imperial capital. You are telling me that this species has been operating in our territory for 50 years without our knowledge? That appears to be the case, sir, Nex replied. And if the pattern holds, they have been deliberately avoiding direct contact while observing our activities. Dr. Varen added her analysis. The technological advancement curve suggests they did not develop this technology recently. The sophistication of those weapon systems would require centuries of research and development. So they were never primitive, Korvash said slowly. They were hiding their true capabilities. Captain Gresh nodded. The crude appearance of their ship may be intentional camouflage, making them appear less threatening while they gathered intelligence on the Empire. Intelligence for what purpose? Korvash asked. Admiral Nex consulted his tactical displays. Unknown, sir. But the implications are troubling. If they have been watching us for decades, they know our military capabilities, our patrol patterns, our technology levels. While we know almost nothing about them, Korvash finished. Dr. Varen brought up the sensor data again. Admiral, there is something else. The weapons used against Zektar's ships were clearly defensive in nature. The unknown vessel could have destroyed the entire fleet, but it only disabled the ships that were directly threatening it. You think they were showing restraint? Korvash asked. Either restraint or they were testing our capabilities, Nex replied. That encounter might have been as much about gathering data on our weapons and tactics as it was about defending themselves. Korvash returned to his desk and activated the secure communication system. I want a full intelligence review of all Outer Rim activities for the past 50 years. Look for any unusual energy signatures, unexplained ship sightings, or technological anomalies. He turned to his staff. I also want a complete tactical analysis of that engagement. If these humans have more ships with similar capabilities, we need to understand what we are dealing with. Admiral Nex was already making notes. Sir, should we attempt to locate and make contact with this species? Corvash considered the question carefully. Not yet. First, we need more information. If they have been avoiding contact for 50 years, there must be a reason. Dr. Varen looked concerned. Admiral, what if they decide that avoiding contact is no longer possible? What if they view Zektar's attack as an act of war? The question hung in the air like a dark cloud. The Empire had built its power on military superiority and technological advantage. But if the humans possessed weapons that could neutralize Imperial fleets, that advantage might not exist. Then we had better hope they are more interested in peace than conquest, Corvash replied quietly. But deep down, he feared that hope might not be enough. The Empire had made many enemies over the centuries. If the humans decided the Empire was a threat, the galaxy might be about to change forever, and the Empire might not survive that change. Fleet Admiral Corvash stood in the command center of the Imperial Dreadnought Sovereign, watching 50 warships assemble in perfect formation. This was the largest Imperial fleet deployed in over 20 years. Battleships, cruisers, destroyers, and support vessels filled the space around the massive command ship. 3 weeks had passed since the investigation into the human encounter. Intelligence had tracked the unknown vessel to a remote star system at the edge of Imperial space. Long-range sensors showed the ship was stationary near a small moon, apparently conducting repairs. This is our chance, Corvash announced to his senior officers. One ship disabled 2 of our cruisers through surprise and unknown technology. But 50 ships cannot be overcome by tricks and unusual weapons. Admiral Nex nodded from his position at the tactical display. Our analysis suggests their weapons, while powerful, have limited range and firing rates. With this many ships attacking from multiple angles, they cannot target all of us simultaneously. Captain Voss, commander of the fleet's battleship squadron, was confident. Admiral, my ships alone carry enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Whatever defensive systems this human ship possesses, they cannot withstand concentrated fire from an entire fleet. Dr. Varen had been assigned to the fleet to analyze human technology during the battle. She was less optimistic. We still do not fully understand their capabilities. The energy readings from the previous encounter suggest technology far beyond our current understanding. Which is exactly why we brought overwhelming force, Corvash replied. Whatever advantages they possess, numbers and firepower will overcome them. The fleet had been following the human ship's trail for 6 days. The vessel's course was erratic, taking it through several uninhabited systems. It seemed to be avoiding populated areas, which supported the theory that the humans preferred to remain hidden. Fleet is in position, reported Commander Zen from the navigation station. Target system is directly ahead. The Imperial fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the target system. Immediately, sensors began scanning for the human vessel. Contact, announced the sensor operator. Large vessel near the third moon, approximately where intelligence predicted. The main screen displayed the target system. A single ship sat motionless in the shadow of a rocky moon. Even at this distance, its strange patchwork construction was visible. The same vessel from the previous encounter? Corvash asked. Confirmed, sir. Energy signature matches Admiral Zektar's reports exactly. Corvash studied the tactical display. His 50 ships surrounded the system, blocking all escape routes. The human vessel was completely trapped. Open communication channels, he ordered. The communications officer activated the fleet's broadcasting systems. Corvash's voice would reach every corner of the system. Unknown human vessel. This is Fleet Admiral Corvash of the Valyrian Imperial Navy. You are surrounded and outnumbered. Surrender immediately and prepare to be boarded. The response came quickly, transmitted on a narrow beam directly to the flagship. The voice that spoke was calm and clear, speaking perfect Imperial Standard language. This is Captain Elena Rodriguez of the United Earth ship Indomitable. We have no desire for conflict. Allow us to depart and there will be no further incidents. Corvash was surprised. The humans spoke their language without any accent or translation delay. How long had they been studying Imperial communications? Your vessel attacked Imperial ships without provocation, Corvash replied. You will surrender and submit to Imperial justice. There was a long pause before the human captain responded. When she spoke again, her tone was different. Sadder somehow. Admiral Corvash, we tried to avoid this situation. We have been in this galaxy for a long time, watching your empire expand. We hope to remain unnoticed. Your Admiral Zektar forced our hand when he attempted to board our ship. You could have identified yourself instead of attacking, Corvash said. Would you have simply let us go if we had? Rodriguez asked. Your empire's history suggests otherwise. You conquer or destroy anything you do not understand. The comment stung because it was accurate, but Corvash could not show weakness in front of his fleet. Surrender now or face the consequences, he declared. Another pause. Then Rodriguez spoke again, and her words chilled Corvash to the bone. Admiral, we have been monitoring your communications. We know about your intelligence briefings. We know you believe our ship is some kind of primitive vessel that got lucky against Admiral Zektar. How could they have intercepted encrypted Imperial communications? You are wrong, Rodriguez continued. The Indomitable is not a warship. It is an exploration and colony support vessel. What you call our weapons are actually engineering tools and defensive systems. Dr. Varen looked up from her instruments with alarm. Admiral, I am detecting massive energy buildups throughout their ship. Multiple systems are activating simultaneously. On the main screen, the human vessel began to change. Sections of its hull that had appeared to be random patches and additions were reorganizing themselves. The ship was transforming, revealing its true structure. If you insist on this course of action, Rodriguez's voice came over the comm, then you will learn what human engineering is truly capable of. All ships attack formation, Corvash ordered. Target their weapon systems. The Imperial fleet opened fire. 50 warships unleashed their full arsenal. Plasma cannons, missile batteries, and energy weapons all converged on the human vessel. The combined firepower was enough to destroy a space station. But as the weapons reached their target, something impossible happened. The human ship's hull began to absorb the incoming fire, not deflecting it or shielding against it, actually absorbing the energy and converting it. Their hull temperature is dropping, Dr. Varen reported in amazement. They are somehow using our weapons to power their own systems. The Indomitable fired back. But this time, instead of the handful of strange weapons that had attacked Zektar's ships, dozens of different weapon systems emerged from the transforming hull. Each one looked completely different from the others. The first salvo destroyed 3 Imperial destroyers instantly. Not damaged or disabled, completely destroyed. The ship simply ceased to exist, leaving no debris behind. Evasive maneuvers, Corvash shouted. But the human weapons were unlike anything Imperial tactical doctrine had prepared for. One weapon created a field that froze an entire cruiser in space, its crew trapped in suspended time. Another weapon reached through a battleship's shields and turned its armor into gas. The Imperial fleet tried to spread out, using their superior numbers to attack from multiple angles. But the human ship moved in ways that defied physics. It seemed to teleport short distances, appearing behind Imperial vessels and striking before they could react. How are they moving like that? Admiral Nex demanded. Dr. Varen was studying her instruments frantically. I do not know. Their propulsion system is unlike anything in our databases. They are not using conventional engines. More Imperial ships fell to the impossible human weapons. A squadron of destroyers tried to ram the Indomitable, but the human ship created a barrier that made the attacking vessels pass harmlessly through it like ghosts. All ships, full retreat, Corvash finally ordered, but it was too late. The human vessel had positioned itself between the Imperial fleet and their escape route, not through speed or maneuvering, but by somehow being in multiple places at once. Admiral, Rodriguez's voice came over the comm again. We do not wish to destroy your entire fleet. Order your ships to stand down. Corvash looked at his tactical display. In less than 10 minutes, the human ship had destroyed or disabled over half of his fleet. His remaining vessels were scattered and demoralized. What do you want? He asked. To leave this system and continue our mission, Rodriguez replied. We came here to repair damage from our last encounter with your forces. We had hoped to avoid any further contact. And if I refuse, then you will discover what human military vessels are actually capable of, Rodriguez said quietly. The Indomitable is not a warship, Admiral. It is a civilian vessel with defensive systems, Our actual military ships are considerably more effective. The words hit Corvash like a physical blow. This wasn't even a military ship. Your civilization has a choice to make, Rodriguez continued. You can continue to view humanity as a threat to be conquered, or you can accept that we have as much right to exist in this galaxy as you do. Corvash stared at the human vessel, trying to process what had just happened. His fleet, the pride of the Imperial Navy, had been defeated by a single ship that claimed to be civilian. Stand down all weapons, he ordered quietly. The human ship began moving away from the Imperial fleet, heading for the edge of the system. As it passed the flagship, Rodriguez sent one final message. Tell your Emperor that humanity has no desire for war. But we will not allow ourselves to be conquered or destroyed. This encounter will be reported to Earth Command. How they respond will depend on how your Empire chooses to proceed. The Indomitable reached the system's edge and vanished, its propulsion method still incomprehensible to Imperial science. Corvash stared at the empty space where the ship had been, knowing that everything had changed. The Empire was no longer the most powerful force in the galaxy, and they had just made an enemy of something far beyond their understanding. Fleet Admiral Corvash floated in the medical bay of his damaged flagship, burns covering half of his body. The human weapons had done something to his ship's hull that the doctors could not understand. The metal had become briefly toxic, poisoning anyone who touched it. Around him, the remains of his fleet tried to tend to their wounded and repair critical systems. 27 ships destroyed, 15 more heavily damaged. It was the worst military disaster in Imperial history. His communication system chimed with an incoming transmission. Corvash expected another report from one of his surviving captains. Instead, the voice that came through was familiar and unwelcome. Admiral Corvash, this is Captain Rodriguez of the Indomitable. Corvash struggled to sit up in his medical bed. What do you want, human? To talk, Rodriguez replied simply. Your ship's medical systems are not equipped to treat the effects of our defensive weapons. I am transmitting treatment protocols that will save your crew. Data began flooding into the flagship's computers, medical procedures, antidotes, and healing techniques that Imperial doctors had never seen before. Why would you help us? Corvash asked suspiciously. Because despite what your Empire believes, we are not monsters, Rodriguez answered. And because you deserve to understand what really happened here before you die. The medical bay doors opened and a figure in a strange suit walked in. The suit was clearly not Imperial design. It looked organic somehow, flowing like liquid but solid as armor. Do not be alarmed. Rodriguez's voice came from the figure. This is a remote presence unit. I am still aboard my ship, but I can speak with you face to face this way. The figure approached Corvash's bed. Through the helmet's transparent faceplate, he could see a human woman with dark hair and intelligent eyes. She looked younger than he had expected. You are Rodriguez? He asked. Captain Elena Rodriguez, United Earth Deep Space Command, she confirmed. I have been exploring this galaxy for 12 years. 12 years? Corvash was shocked. But the survey report said your species was primitive. Rodriguez sat down in a chair beside his bed. The remote suit moved with perfect human grace as if she were actually present. Those survey reports were exactly what we wanted your people to see, she explained. Earth's first deep space scouts encountered the Valerian Empire 73 years ago. We studied your expansion patterns, your methods of conquest, your treatment of other species. Corvash felt cold despite his fever. You have been spying on us for over 70 years? Observing, Rodriguez corrected. We learned that the Valerian Empire conquers or destroys any species it considers a potential threat. Advanced technology makes a species threatening. So we made sure you would never see our true capabilities. She activated a holographic display that showed star charts of the entire galactic region. Hundreds of systems were marked with human symbols. We have been mapping and exploring this galaxy while your empire focused on conquest. Rodriguez continued. Our scientists have had decades to study Valerian technology, biology, and psychology. We know more about your people than you know about yourselves. The implications were staggering. While the Empire had been focused on controlling inhabited worlds, humanity had been secretly studying the entire galaxy. The ship that your Admiral Zektar encountered was not trying to hide, Rodriguez explained. It was making a delivery to one of our deep space monitoring stations. When he attacked, we had to respond. A delivery ship did that to 2 Imperial cruisers. Corvash could not believe it. The Indomitable is a colony support vessel, Rodriguez said patiently. It carries supplies and equipment to human settlements throughout the galaxy. The weapons you encountered are actually mining lasers, construction tools, and defensive systems designed to clear asteroid fields and protect against space debris. Corvash stared at her. Mining lasers? A mining laser designed to cut through solid rock can easily penetrate Imperial hull armor, Rodriguez explained. A construction beam meant to weld starship hulls can disintegrate your weapons. A shield system designed to protect against asteroid impacts can absorb your plasma fire. The human woman stood up and walked to the medical bay's window. Space was filled with the wreckage of Imperial ships. What you call weapons are simply tools that we adapted for defense, she continued. Actual human military technology is far more advanced. Then why did you not use it? Corvash asked. Because we hoped this could be resolved without bloodshed, Rodriguez replied sadly. The Indomitable could have destroyed your entire fleet in the first minute of combat. Instead, we disabled your ships and tried to minimize casualties. She turned back to face him. Admiral, humanity has been preparing for this encounter for decades. We always knew that eventually, the Empire would discover our presence. We hoped it would be through peaceful contact, not through an attack on our ships. What happens now? Corvash asked quietly. Rodriguez was silent for a moment, as if listening to voices he could not hear. That depends on your Empire's next actions, she finally said. This encounter has been transmitted to Earth Command and to our colony worlds throughout the galaxy. They are waiting to see how the Valerian Empire responds. You have colonies throughout the galaxy? The scope of human activity was overwhelming. Over 200 worlds, Admiral, some of them larger and more advanced than your home world. We have been building our civilization while yours has been focused on conquest. Rodriguez activated another holographic display. This one showed human ships throughout Imperial space. Not just one or two, but dozens of them. We have been monitoring your activities for decades, she explained. Every major Imperial fleet movement, every new weapon test, every strategic planning session. We know your capabilities better than your own admirals do. The revelation was devastating. The Empire's military secrets were completely compromised. Why are you telling me this? Corvash asked. Because you need to understand what your Empire is facing, Rodriguez replied seriously. Humanity does not want war with the Valerian Empire. We have our own worlds to build, our own people to care for, but we will not allow ourselves to be conquered or destroyed. She leaned closer to his bed. Your Empire has two choices, Admiral. You can continue to view humanity as a threat to be eliminated, which will result in the destruction of your civilization, or you can accept that we have as much right to exist in this galaxy as you do. And if we choose war? Corvash had to ask. Rodriguez's expression became very sad. Then you will discover why we have spent 70 years preparing for this moment. The Indomitable carries emergency beacons that can summon our actual military forces. They are already responding to our encounter. How many ships? Corvash whispered. Enough, Rodriguez said simply. Admiral, your entire empire has perhaps 10,000 warships. Humanity has been building our fleet in secret for decades, using resources from worlds you do not even know exist. The human woman stood up to leave. I am returning to my ship now. Your medical teams have the information they need to treat your injured crew. You should recover fully. Wait, Corvash called out. What should I tell the Emperor? Rodriguez paused at the doorway. Tell him that humanity tried to remain hidden to avoid this exact situation. Tell him that we responded to your attacks with restraint, when we could have responded with overwhelming force. She turned back to face him one final time, and tell him that what happens next depends entirely on whether the Valerian Empire chooses wisdom or pride. The remote presence unit walked out of the medical bay, leaving Corvash alone with the ruins of his fleet and the terrible knowledge of what the Empire had awakened. Through the window, he could see the Indomitable in the distance, no longer hiding its true capabilities. The ship's hull gleamed with energy fields and weapon systems that made Imperial technology look primitive. But most frightening of all was Rodriguez's final transmission as her ship prepared to leave the system. Admiral, the Indomitable is transmitting a message to Earth Command right now. The message is simple. Package delivered. The neighbors know we exist now. Recommend we accelerate the timeline. As the human ship vanished into hyperspace, Corvash realized that the Empire's greatest fear had come true. They were no longer alone at the top of the galactic food chain. Emperor Maltheus sat on his crystal throne, staring at the holographic reports floating before him. The emergency session of the Imperial High Council had been running for 6 hours. Fleet Admiral Corvash's testimony played over and over on the central display. The Emperor was old, having ruled the Valerian Empire for 43 years. In all that time, he had never faced a crisis like this. The Empire had always been the dominant power in their region of the galaxy. Now suddenly they had discovered they were not even alone. "Show me the sensor readings again," he commanded. Admiral Nex activated the tactical display. Energy signatures appeared throughout Imperial space, marking the locations of detected human vessels. There were dozens of them scattered across hundreds of light years. "How long have they been there?" the Emperor asked. "Based on the energy signatures, some of these contacts may have been present for decades," Admiral Nex replied. "We simply never recognized them as artificial constructs." Dr. Varen stepped forward from her position at the Science Council. "Your Majesty, we have analyzed the weapon effects from both encounters. The technology involved surpasses our understanding by several centuries at minimum. Are you telling me that a species we thought was primitive has been more advanced than us for decades?" The Emperor's voice was dangerously quiet. "That appears to be the case, Your Majesty," Dr. Varen confirmed. "The human ship's capabilities suggest mastery of technologies we have not even discovered yet." Chancellor Vex, the Empire's chief diplomat, had been reviewing intelligence reports. "Your Majesty, there is more. Our deep space monitoring stations have detected massive energy buildups at the edge of our territory. Something large is approaching." The Emperor stood up from his throne and walked to the massive window overlooking the Imperial capital. The city stretched to the horizon, filled with billions of citizens who believed the Empire was invincible. "What are our military options?" he asked. General Thrain, commander of Imperial ground forces, stepped forward reluctantly. "Limited, Your Majesty. If Admiral Corvash's reports are accurate, our current military doctrine is useless against human technology. Then we develop new doctrine," the Emperor said firmly. "With respect." "Your Majesty," Dr. Varen interjected. "That would take decades. The technological gap is too large to bridge quickly. It would be like trying to fight plasma cannons with swords." The Emperor turned back to face his council. "Then what do you recommend?" Chancellor Vex cleared his throat nervously. "Your Majesty, perhaps we should consider diplomatic contact." The human captain expressed no desire for conquest. "After they destroyed half of our finest fleet," General Thrain objected. "In self-defense," Admiral Nex pointed out. "According to Corvash's report, they showed considerable restraint. They could have destroyed the entire fleet." The debate was interrupted by an urgent communication from the Imperial Fleet Command. Admiral Sten's voice filled the council chamber. "Your Majesty, we have a situation. Long-range sensors are detecting multiple large contacts approaching the Imperial border. Unknown vessel configurations, but the energy signatures match the human ship from previous encounters." Emperor Malthius felt cold. "How many ships?" "At least 50, Your Majesty. Possibly more. They are still at extreme sensor range." The council chamber fell silent. 50 human ships, each potentially as powerful as the vessel that had defeated Admiral Corvash's fleet. The mathematics were terrifying. "Are they in attack formation?" the Emperor asked. "No, Your Majesty. They appear to be in a standard diplomatic approach." "But Your Majesty..." Admiral Sten's voice became strained. "The lead ship is massive. Larger than anything in our fleet." Emperor Malthius closed his eyes for a moment, thinking of all the species the Empire had conquered over the centuries. How many of them had felt this same helplessness? "Open a communication channel to the approaching fleet," he ordered. "Your Majesty," General Thrain protested. "That could be seen as a sign of weakness." "General," the Emperor replied quietly, "if Admiral Corvash is correct, we are already weak. We simply did not know it." The communication system activated, broadcasting on all known frequencies. The Emperor's voice carried across space to the approaching human fleet. "This is Emperor Malthius of the Valerian Empire. We acknowledge your presence in our territory and request diplomatic contact." The response came quickly, transmitted on a tight beam directly to the Imperial Palace. The voice was different from Captain Rodriguez, older and more authoritative. "Emperor Malthius, this is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Defense Fleet. I am here to discuss the recent incidents between our peoples." "Admiral Chen," the Emperor replied carefully, "we are prepared to discuss these incidents. Will you come to our homeworld for negotiations?" There was a pause before Admiral Chen responded. With respect, Emperor, we prefer to conduct these negotiations in neutral space. We are transmitting coordinates for a meeting location. The coordinates appeared on the tactical display. It was a position exactly halfway between the human fleet and the Imperial border. We will meet you there, the Emperor agreed. One more thing, Emperor, Admiral Chen added. We will be bringing representatives from several other species in this region. This conversation affects more than just our two civilizations. The communication ended, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. Other species? Chancellor Vex asked. What other species? Dr. Varen was already working on her analysis systems. Your Majesty, I am detecting energy signatures from species we thought we had completely conquered. The Altarians, the Zephyrians, the Centauri Federation. That is impossible, General Thrain said. We destroyed their fleets decades ago. Apparently not, Admiral Nex replied grimly. If the humans have been operating in secret for 70 years, they could have made contact with survivors from species we thought we had eliminated. Emperor Maltheus felt the weight of history pressing down on him. The Empire had built its power on the assumption that they were technologically superior to everyone else in the galaxy. That assumption was now proven false. Prepare the diplomatic vessel, he ordered. I will attend these negotiations personally. Your Majesty, Chancellor Vex said nervously, perhaps it would be safer to send representatives. Chancellor, the Emperor replied, if we are about to discover that our empire has been living on borrowed time for decades, then I will face that truth personally. 3 days later, Emperor Maltheus stood in the observation deck of his diplomatic ship, watching the human fleet approach the meeting coordinates. The lead ship was indeed massive, easily 3 times the size of the largest Imperial dreadnought. But what truly shocked him were the other ships in the human formation. He recognized some of the designs: Altarian bioships, Zephyrian crystal vessels, Centauri war platforms. Species the Empire thought it had destroyed were flying alongside the human fleet. Admiral Chen's voice came over the communication system. Emperor Maltheus, welcome to the Galactic Council negotiations. Galactic Council? The Emperor asked. An organization we established 60 years ago, Admiral Chen explained. It includes representatives from every free species in this region of the galaxy. We have been waiting for the right time to reveal ourselves to the Valerian Empire. The Emperor stared at the assembled fleet, representing civilizations he thought no longer existed. What do you want? He asked quietly. What we have always wanted, Emperor, Admiral Chen replied. The right to exist freely in our own galaxy. The question is whether the Valerian Empire will join the Galactic Council as equals, or whether it will continue to view conquest as the only form of diplomacy. Emperor Maltheus looked at his advisors, seeing the fear and uncertainty in their faces. For centuries, the Empire had been the hunters. Now they had discovered they had actually been the hunted. We are prepared to discuss terms, he said finally. Then let us begin, Admiral Chen replied. The future of this galaxy depends on what we decide here today. As the negotiations began, Emperor Maltheus realized that the Valerian Empire would never be the same. They had awakened something vast and ancient and patient, and somehow, they would have to find a way to coexist with forces beyond their understanding. The age of Imperial dominance was over. The age of the Galactic Council had begun.